This conference will now be recorded.
I hereby call this King George County Board of Directors of the Service Authority Budget Work Session to order. Open with any public comments. Okay, having none, let's move forward into our presentation on. You folks have anybody online who wishes to? No. Okay, thank you. Move on to the presentation of the budget here, proposed budget.
Excuse me, sorry. I'll go ahead and just start out. So you have in front of you a list of expenditures for the water and the sewer side, and that also would include the maintenance as well. But the maintenance is blended into the, is that correct?
Yes, I believe several years ago, the board directed staff to do away with the maintenance lines and incorporate those into the water and sewer and split out based on what type of work is being done.
Okay. So this is kind of a mirror to what you did last year, is my understanding. So what we were thinking is tonight is kind of a general discussion about expenditures, what makes up the various sides of this organization, and then reserve the next board meeting for a discussion of revenues and, whatever your potential rates would be. I have kind of a highlight that I'll talk about here, and then we have our key folks here, your managers of the maintenance and the water. And we also have Ms. Norris Barker, who's the executive assistant and kind of ringleader, who keeps it flowing, right? And I don't think we were able to have Mr. Whitman here, who is currently our lead wastewater manager. He is stepped up into that role, obviously, since some of the things that happened with Dahlgren. And we would hope that the third meeting would be either a wrap up or, an opportunity for further discussion. And, so I think that we were at the last regular board meeting, we had proposed this night, and then the 21st, which was a Thursday of next week, and then also the 28th, if that works. And then obviously you could also reserve a regular board meeting night if you wanted to have a budget discussion as well. So Ms. Hahn and Ms. Cobb worked with the staff to put together this information, and there are some variables, obviously, not reflected in this at all. Anywhere in this is anything to do with the merger. If that happens or not, this does not include anything like that. Also not included in this would be anything that you do with a request for qualifications in terms of looking at an operator or not looking at an operator. That's not included in this information because obviously the timing is not going to work out. I mean, we may not know where we stand on that issue until probably into the last part of May. We have questions that were required to be submitted by tomorrow. Thursday, the 14th, and then the 21st is the submittal date for those qualifications. Then a team will evaluate those, determine who the best one is, and then enter into discussions about proposals and things like that. So I think that we outlined that at the last meeting. What also is not included in this, and that what we would do is have this discussion tonight, and then we would bring back any expenditure items that you want to have us include or that you want us to take out. Those things would come back on that third meeting when we get back together. But one of the things that we have proposed is that, first of all, they'll be included in this is a potential for a 5% raise. And you're seeing that as it's a 5% with a 3% COLA and a 2% merit. And it duplicates what is being proposed by me and the staff to the county board of supervisors. It's by no means saying that that's what you want to do, but what we're trying to do is keep everything all in the same way. If for some reason, whether you merge or you don't merge, if the county's going to be doing the HR administration and the payroll, it would be better that you treat the service authority employees the same way you would treat the board of supervisor employees, because we have probably 3 systems right now that we're having to administer, and that's why that proposal. But that it's mirroring exactly what the schools are asking for, and also the board of the employees under the board of supervisors are asking for.
Can I ask something?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
In that, I understand you're trying to keep it across the board. I honestly not sure that 5% is enough. I really don't. Just because of the way things have escalated and the difficulty in hiring the people we need for the service authority. What I'd really like to see is what you would do in most industries and do an analysis of what competitive pay is for the surrounding counties. You know, I'd like to know what Stafford's paying. I'd like to know what Spotsy's paying. And I darn well would like our people at least making that. It's not a very far drive to either of those. You know, I don't think anybody's going to, if you're going to go up to, you know, Prince William or something, you're going to go up there. That's a long drive, a lot of traffic. But, you know, Spotsy, literally the plants for, some of the plants for Stafford, you could fall on them when you trip over the county line. I mean, Little Falls Run is, I don't know, 2 miles into Stafford from King George. So there's a lot of those plants are very, very close, easy to get to. So I'd really like to know what the pay rates are in our competitors, which are basically Stafford and Spotsy, and to make sure that we're on par. I mean, others here may disagree or agree, I don't know, but that's what I'd like to know, just to make sure. You know, 5% is nice, but if we need 10% to keep people and not having to go to Stafford, I'd really prefer not to lose people.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I believe the Board of Supervisors has requested already of staff that we do that kind of salary study. And Ms. Sumil, can you tell me, when we did that 5 years ago or so, that covered the service authority employees, as those job classifications as well, right? So we're gonna get that information. I completely, I get where you're coming from, Mr. Parker, that maybe 5% isn't enough, but we need to take our time and see what the data looks like, because anytime we do this, it all gets passed on to the ratepayers too. So yeah, I'm not saying that I don't want to give you all more. We just have to make sure, you know, that the data supports it and figure out where it would be coming from. So, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see where the data is. I want to know what we are compared to other people. I mean, 5% may be right. 5%. There's nothing to judge it from.
The study is not, is the study included in here?
No. So
Okay.
what is on your sheets tonight is figuring in up to a 5% increase. So the salary, you'll notice the salary lines are higher. Also, I figured in a 10% increase for individuals who may receive certifications. So that there's certification pay included in that calculation as well.
But what we'll do is, for the next go round, we'll get a figure in here that would you know, embrace that part of the study that the county's doing, and would be as a reserve for the service authority side. So we can figure up a cost that would be included in this. So yes, we will do that. The other thing, that 2 other items that I need to mention. One is, so for new positions, we are proposing a couple things. One is to hire 2 maintenance folks. We are trying to beef up the maintenance side of it. We don't have the ability to specialize. We don't have the ability to have a water collection and water distribution and water treatment and water maintenance side. We just don't have that, and we don't, and consequently, we're, you know, correspondingly, we don't have it on the sewer side. So what happens is we have a maintenance department, and that is John Eisenbeis, who's in the center there. And he's our manager, and what he ends up doing is about every 2 months, he loses his crews to meter reads. And these maintenance workers that he has for him or with him are line locators, and they are also meter readers. That was what they're hired in, but then they also know that they have to do maintenance. And so what we want to get to, I don't know if we can get to that specialization part, but we want to beef up that crew so that when we aren't going to be on AMI anytime in the next year or so. That's a year or two away, year and a half, 2 years away. Once that happens, obviously the meter reading function becomes a much more automated, and it's you're not going to have as much labor intensive activity. So what we want to do is continue to beef up the maintenance side, and we may move to a customer service division that deals with meter reading and line locates, work orders, things like that. And then you have your heavy maintenance guys that are dealing with the stuff that's happening at the sewer plants, the stuff, line breaks and, leaks and things like that. So there are going to be a proposal to have 2 maintenance employees added. We've added a couple this year. And then we also are advocating, and we may be able to do that this year, in this budget. We're trying to figure out some things with some employees about where we are, and we're trying to figure out if we can get the water side another operator, like a 3 or a 4. And if we can get that accomplished in this year's budget, I don't know that we need it for next year's budget. So that's something that we're working on as well. And Jerry Goldman is our water manager, and he is the lead man and does a number of wonderful things for us. But he just needs, a couple extra people, and especially somebody that has the capacity to, to do the treatment side of it, because it is it's something that you have to have some skills at. So if we can do it this year in this remaining budget, then we'll do it. If not, then we would be proposing it as part of this budget coming up. The other thing that I would, and we have that. Oh, sorry. Pass that around. The other thing that is included in this is that this is actually included in the budget, correct? Is the living wage. So this is something that Supervisor Collins on the county side has proposed that we look at raising everything to what's known as the living wage to start people. And so the Board of Supervisors will see what that impact is on the county side. But we also did it on this side as well. So that means that your entry-level workers are going to come in at 15?
It's, the annual salary is $32,011, which is $1,539.
So that's going to have an effect of, you're going to have anybody hired is going to instantly come at that. But then we're going to also have to boost up people that are already there, boost them up that have some service to, some experience. They'll have to come up as well. So there will be that corresponding increase to that. And I think that's a good plan. I know that the county supervisors are going to consider it tomorrow night, but I think everybody would agree that, if we want to retain employees, you gotta have, a commitment to bringing them in at that entry level at a higher rate than we've been doing. And so, hopefully this is a first step in trying to address kind of what you're saying is at least at that beginning basis of things. So was that all that I was supposed to cover? Do you have anything else?
Not for you.
Okay. I'll answer any questions. I mean, certainly.
Yeah, do y'all have any questions on the salary pieces of the spreadsheets before we get into the rest of the expenditures?
Yes, I have a question. The 32,000 you quoted, is that if we hired an entry level?
hiring an entry level and bringing our staff, the current staff up to that level
So the 32 would be somebody coming in new and then
as a trainee.
as a trainee.
Now, if we were to find someone to fill a vacancy that is already certified, then their salary would be higher than that.
Okay, and then the current employees, their, as you said, their salaries will be adjusted so they're not making the.
Yes.
Right, and that's been done already and is
Okay.
included in the spreadsheets that you have.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. So I'm just wondering, if I'm missing this or not, is there year-to-date actuals on here?
No.
So I guess if when we break it down, we'll see the year-to-date actuals, or I'm just.
Now,
how I
we,
can-
now we have provided at the, and I think you
Yeah.
have gotten that information in terms of now it doesn't probably break it down into each individual account, and we can do that, but we can do that if we can, we could do that at the meeting on, the third board
It's
meeting,
just
if that's
easier to
fine.
read than having to go back into those other spreadsheets.
So, yeah, so these spreadsheets that are used for the budget have never broken out. Last year you didn't see that. We could go in and modify, but that takes additional work, or we could bring to you an expenditure summary report that has, of course, it's smaller than what you have in front of you. But this, that we run out of the system shows the expenditures to date.
And it breaks it down to these account numbers, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
We can provide that.
It's just, it would be easier, this is just suggestion, when you're looking at these financials, if you had a year-to-date actual, because then we can see, okay, well, here's what we approved, here's what we used, and here's what we would propose.
And I will say that this year had its ups and downs, and so there's some lines that you're gonna see in the current year's budget that probably have overrun like overtime, because especially on the sewer side of the house, because they are short-staffed right now, so you'll see overruns, but then you'll see other lines underrunning. But yeah, we can provide that. If we, the spreadsheets flow up to other spreadsheets, so if we go to manipulating them, it would have to be a whole separate spreadsheet that doesn't,
Yeah.
the totals don't.
No, and I remember that from last year too. It's just, again, and thank you for providing those financials, because I was able to look at those and see the year-to-date actual. It's just when we look at this, we really should be able to know where are we right now, so that we can really propose for the next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without having to dig into the
And,
other.
and we do, when we're meeting with the staff, we have that in front of us and we talk about that before we put numbers into the budget for the next year. So any other questions before we start going through the line by line?
No, go ahead.
All right. So, of course, we already talked about the salary piece, which is the first several lines of this. And one thing I will mention that you'll see that health insurance premiums, while our health insurance rates lowered. So that's passed on to a shared amount between the county and the employee. So you see a reduction there. And then disability insurance, there's a slight lowering there. I know that we replaced some positions with individuals who had been in VRS before, and so disability insurance is only for new employees who are in the VRS hybrid plan. So if you're in VRS Plan 1 or Plan 2, we do not pay disability for those employees. Then the line 3120, which is our professional services for accounting and auditing, that those numbers were changed, and that'll be on both sides, water and sewer. It's split equally, and it is based on our new contract that we just awarded in January of this year for Robinson Farmer Cox, who is our auditor. So I have actual numbers in there. I think last year Jonathan had like a placeholder of what he thought it would be. So I did make that line what it will be for the next year. And also, I spoke with Kyle Lau from Davenport on the financial advisor side, and he looks for that to probably be no more than it was for the current fiscal year. So we left that as is. The engineering and architect, you'll see that we did raise that by 28,000. That was after a discussion with our county engineer, Travis Kusenberry, and he suggested that on both sewer and water that we should have $100,000 in that line. Muni billing, line 3155. So I increased muni billing this year based on, I did a, basically a study on my own of what we've been paying muni billing. And so we're actually going to overrun on this one this year based on the contracted price for the monthly maintenance for the number of accounts. One thing that I don't know that was taken into consideration and that I've added in here is that the lockbox payments, they are not processed by the treasurer's office. They're processed off-site, and anything that gets sent to lockbox, they charge us a fee for. So I kind of did an averaging of where we are and what we might be for a full year. I looked at everything we paid year to date for the current fiscal year with muni billing. And we are getting ready to start, I guess it's year 3 with them. And so this is approximately how much it's going to cost in the next fiscal year.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair? Related to that, Ms. Hahn. So you said we're about to start year 3 with muni billing. Is there a time frame in which, first of all, what's the length of the contract that we committed to?
I believe the contract was for 1 year with the option for 4 renewals.
So we're basically year by year right now. So would there maybe, if it were the will of the board to have that rebid, to put that back out to see if there was anything more competitive out there? I don't know. If you're, I mean, what you're saying is, and that's not just $45,000 on the water side of the house, you're carrying that in the sewer side of the house too.
That's correct.
That's $90,000 more than what we thought we signed up for. That's a lot of money.
Right, because in the original contract, it stated that year 3, which has already started, but they didn't start the service until April 1st. The contract, I believe, was signed in December of 2019. So it was signed in December of 2019, but by the time all the departments met, of course, this was all before I was here, so I'm just summarizing what I've been told, but all the departments met, the treasurer's office, finance. I don't know. I know Jonathan was included. Were you involved in those as well? And met and worked out this. So we're already into this 3rd year, but they didn't start charging the new prices, which is $3.50 per month per account. That started April 1st. So we're already into this year. So we would have to.
But if we did that, if we did put it back out, we would have almost a whole year to put it out and get responses and have staff take a look at what the responses were. And I mean, I'm not saying put it out tomorrow, but maybe the board wants to later, over the summer or something, take a hard look at, hey, should we put this back out for bid to see if we can find something more competitive?
And I do believe too that this one wasn't actually bid. It was a cooperative procurement off of another locality's contract.
Rider. Okay. Thank
because
you.
I think it was put together pretty quickly.
There are not a lot of these kind of operations out there, so you're going to be shooting that.
But that, definitely something we can look at and see. Maybe we can also kind of look at some of the other localities and see who they are using or if they're doing it in-house. And one thing too, that eventually, once we get the new financial system, it might be a possibility of bringing it back in-house. But we have to get the core built first on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kupka. I think that's a excellent idea. That's something we should look into. Okay, Ms. Hawk, go ahead.
Just want to make my note real quick. And then, let's see, professional services, other. We removed the janitorial contract because we're not using them now, so we removed that. And also the hydro tank certification that was in there is biennial. So it was in fiscal year 22, does not need to be in fiscal year 23. We'll bring it back in fiscal year 24, and that's why you see a reduction there. Then on the water testing, we removed the collection amount from that, and that took it down by $3,600. Repair and maintenance. So this line we looked at, and let's see, did I have notes down? So the SCADA, I believe we took that down. Which ones did we? Yeah, we lowered the SCADA amount to $75,000, which is your decrease of 45,000 in there. And I don't remember the exact reason. Maybe Jerry could. So basically, you stated that we removed that because of a plant that will close within the next 10 years. Oh, that will come online.
An actual filtration plant.
A filtration plant that'll come online in the next 10 years, and therefore we couldn't see spending the additional funds on
At least 45,000, at least.
on that particular. We left the contracted services for vehicle repair the same. Maintenance services contracts. We increased the tank contract by CPI of 5.4. That could be low. Right now, CPI has been changing on a monthly basis. So that's what we estimated, but it could go higher than that. And we are in I believe it's a 10-year contract, or we had a 1-year contract with 10 renewals, but this one has clauses in it that if we get out of the contract, we're going to pay a lot more money than what we would pay to keep it. And then printing, binding, advertising, those stayed the same. Laundry and dry cleaning, we brought that up to the correct cost. It was $68 per month, and it should have been $79 per month on the water side. So we brought that up. The permits, I think we increased that by one operator. Licensing, it should have been 2 instead of 1, and that's the increase there. Utility, so let's see, utilities, electric service. We increased this from 120,000 to 150,000, and this is based on historical amounts and what we were looking at year to date. As to what we've paid, thus far, and 120,000 was not enough to cover the electric bills. The heating and cooling service, that remained the same. Water services, we reduced that by $1,250. That was also based on historical usage and year-to-date figures. Postal services, we reduced that and cut that in half, and this used to be higher when we were doing more of the mailings from the Service Authority office, and where Unibilling does those for us now. Messenger services, we left that the same because you never know when you need to use a messenger service to send something off for repairs. So we left that in there. Telecommunications, that remains the same. The next one, I do want to say that this is a work in process, the cell phone pagers. I am looking into that, and I have a meeting either Friday or Monday with Verizon because to get and this is going to be the same on for both the water and the sewer. For some reason, the account has several different plans, and I'm trying to get everybody on a shared plan, and I'm going to be working with our Verizon rep either Friday or Monday to get that. So that one will come back with a more actual figure as we get closer to approving a budget. And then the next several lines are your fire and liability insurance, property insurance, vehicle insurance. And right now we've left those the same. We have not received our updated for next year yet from Baycorp, so we're not positive of what that's going to be. Lease and rent of equipment. So originally when we met last week, there were some of the vehicles that we have never received that were requested for this current fiscal year. And John Eisenbeis and I are going to meet with our fleet representative because he wants, we need to find out what the status of those are, and the prices could also change since we haven't gotten them. When we go through the enterprise, when we enter in what we want, if the manufacturer can't get those, sometimes they'll kick it back out, and then fleet will suggest some alternatives. And I think that's what we're going to be discussing on Thursday with our enterprise representative. Of course, with the way everything has been lately, it's very difficult to get any new vehicles. But we're working. I know we switched some things on the county side to go to different vehicles than what we've used in the past, just because those are the ones that say that they can produce a vehicle. And so that line there is going to change. We left travel and conference and dues and memberships the same as we did office supplies, medical supplies, janitorial supplies. Now the next one, 6,007, I'd like you all to make a change on your sheet that we, instead of 149.5, we need to request 190,900 for next year. And that was because of I left the sheet over there. The valve. So the valves, Jerry and John were talking about that, and we needed to increase the amount for valves to 545,000. And I didn't have that information before this evening. So if you could kind of make that change on your sheet, and we'll make it in going forward. So that is an increase of like 40, what is it? You had 3,600 in before, so not quite the full 45,000 increase there.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question about that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So is that something we're doing as a preventive measure then? We know a few weeks ago or so, we had a valve that failed at Hop Yard, is my understanding. So are you all are
That-
trying to be proactive?
Right, well, it's.
Good.
It's pro and re.
Sure,
for-
sure.
I mean, we got, what, an 18-year-old plant, and now valves are starting to fail, so. And at $3,500 to $4,200 a pop, and there's 24, 25 valves. So, I mean, we're
We replaced one, but it didn't stop the leaking. There's more in the chain that.
Sure, that
that
could
we're-
fail. Yep,
and we can't
Right.
just pick one out.
sure. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
And then vehicle fuel. And I'm sure everyone has felt this at the pump as well. But we increased the vehicle fuel for the vehicles up to $50,000. So for the total line, it was an increase of 39,000 there. And we left the fuel for is that generators, I believe? We left that the same on the water side of the house. And then powered vehicle and powered equipment supplies, we left the same. Uniforms and wearing apparel, we increased that by, we need the correct price for boots for the number of staff. It didn't have the number of staff in there, so we increased that by 450 to encompass all of the staff that would need the steel toe boots. Chemical supplies, we increased that by 8,000, and that was on the water treatment, and it was based on historical usage as well as the need and current pricing, because the price of a lot of things is going up. And then let's see, metering supplies, we added we reduced some of the lines, but we added in a meter set program, which is 55,000 for that. That is in preparation for the AMI contract. There are things that have to be replaced before they can set the new meters. And I'm sure Mr. Eisenbeis has a whole list of those that need to be done.
5,000 of them.
So he estimated that to be about 55,000 there. And then we did lower some of the other just routine maintenance meter setters, some of the meter boxes and covers, and the corporation stops and service saddle. We lowered those to 3 because as we get the new meters in and replace everything that goes along with them, that we should be able to lower some of those other repairs. And then you'll see down here, non-capital furniture and equipment. This is being split between both water and sewer, and this is for a PLC programming for the maintenance manager, as well as a rugged laptop so that he doesn't damage it while he's out in the field. And then we removed the 50,000 out of the capital outlay. That was the 50,000 that was put in for the current year for Arnold's Corner. So any questions on the water side before we move to sewer?
If I could just make a note, if you're looking at your sheets there where it says county administrator and CA recommended, that's I think we just kept the same thing that the county supervisors see. So that's why I didn't want you to think that my role as county administrator is to deal with
and
this
that's
budget.
what we copied directly from what Jonathan had
Oh,
last year. So.
Okay. The other thing is that, we might want to, and I'm going to put Jerry on the spot, is let Jerry explain to you kind of a day in the life of a water operator and what they're doing. And they do this repetitively throughout the day as well as every couple days. Would you tell them about the treatment process and how many wells you guys visit and what goes on?
We have 24 active wells, a few that are out of service. Basically, we arrive, we make sure chlorine is adequate. I don't want it over 2 parts because it's a small system, 9 systems, and they're all, they're all small. Usually there's a leak or something that we have to repair because, I mean, you guys know this is ad nauseum with the dilapidated systems. And I mean, we're Band-Aiding and Band-Aiding and Band-Aiding, and it gets tiring, to be honest, to put Band-Aids over top Band-Aids. And that's why with the water treatment plant on the horizon, I mean, we can tie at least 5 systems together, which is good. The water quality will go up. The amount of water we can pump will go up. DEQ will stop harassing us about going over our permits. And we can run a line, hopefully down to 301 and maybe get some commercial, get some more customers and, get the rates down. I mean, that's every day, that's what we're hoping for.
Thank you.
So any other questions before we go on to sewer?
I remember John Eisenbeis is in both areas, not literally, but literally sometimes, I guess. So if there's questions about how we do the maintenance, because there is a obviously a crew that handles the stuff, but then we also have an on-call contractor, and there are the use of those folks as well, and so that kind of is blended into this. But he can answer any questions that you may have on that. Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, so of course, the top is salaries, and then the auditing, which is the same as on the water side. The engineering, Mr. Kusenberry said to bring this up to 100,000 as well. The muni billing we already discussed. Then on the sewer testing, and we lowered that by $16,000, and that was based on historical usage of the chemicals. I mean, of the sewer testing, but and going off to laboratory for testing. Let's see. Then repair and maintenance, we lowered the number of pumps, mixers, pumps that they felt like we would need to replace by 2, so they're 15,000 each, so that's the 30,000 reduction. The contracted services, make sure I'm on the right tab. We left the vehicle repair the same. The contracted services, we the auto dialers, which is the program that we have that gives us the alarms to the cell phones, that we reduced that based on the actual cost of that. Jonathan had a placeholder estimate in it, so we reduced it to what the actual cost is.
And we're, what line is that?
That was the 3320.
Okay, thank you.
And then, let's see, the utilities, electric service, we increased that by 22,992, based on historical usage and what we've seen year to date, just like on the water side. Then on the postal services, again, we cut in half, just like we did on the water. Telecommunications, now this one did change on the sewer side because we got rid of the phones at the pumping stations and went to the auto dialer. So you'll see there's a, trade-off there. We're even getting it for less. We were able to, cut it down a little bit more, but that is, it's less costly to use the auto dialer versus the phones. Then again, the cell phones, I'm still working on that. Then the next ones are our insurances, lease of equipment. That reduction there probably isn't going to stand because of the meeting that John and I are going to have on Thursday with Fleet. Here on the training and travel and conference fees, you'll see an increase there. We put in a annual training for confined spaces that's about $4,900. And then also we added, Mr. Miller as the general manager asked me to add another $15,000 for training of our wastewater staff. That was something I believe too that Mr. Parker had mentioned at the last board meeting, that felt like our staff needed more training. So we've upped that there. Then office supplies stayed the same. Medical supplies, we increased that by $3,000. And I'm not sure, don't have a note there as to why we did.
First aid for plants.
For first aid. And then the laundry, housekeeping, and janitorial. For some reason, the janitorial services contract was placed under the supply line, and since we're not using that, I removed that line. Then repair and maintenance supplies, we lowered that slightly. Am I looking at the wrong line? Oh, yeah. The valves. So that was increased for the valves there. And again, on the fuel, we did increase both the fuel for the generators and fuel for the vehicles. We took the vehicles up to 30,000. We don't need as much fuel in the service and the sewer side vehicles as we do on the water side. They don't travel. Their distances that they travel aren't as great. And then for the generators and diesel and propane, I think we have more generators there, so we increased that up to 20,000 for the generators. And chemical supplies, we lowered that increased that by 80,000. And that again is based on the historical usage and year to date, and just the cost of the chemicals. One of the items that we use is BioCarb, and I believe, and Patty can kick me if I don't get the numbers right, but it had been, prior to all these costs going up, like $1 and $1.95, and we're up to $4.17 now. So it's been a huge price increase on the chemicals. Then technology and hardware and software, there were in the current year budget, there was to replace the systems, the all-in-ones that they have at a couple of the wastewater treatment plants, and those will be done before the end of this year. So we took that out, but then the 4,400 is the other half of the PLC programming and rugged laptop. And then on the capital outlay, we are in the process of working on the Burger King project that was in there for the current year, as well as the SCADA upgrades. And so we left in to replace the rotors at Dahlgren. So that was in the current year. That's something that hadn't been done yet, and we're not in process on. So we want to leave it in for next year and get the other two completed in this fiscal year. Any questions on sewer?
I would say this, one of the things that we're also working with is with the Bowdoin to identify some of the things that need to be improved at the plants that maybe, we had not addressed. And I think that's something that John is working with them on, and also Michael Whitman, identifying things that can be done this year, but also things that would then be a part of this operating budget. And so, is there anything that specifically we need to call out?
Got a lot to do.
But, it's the reality that you have a system, water and sewer side, that have not had the attention. And we know that Kyle with Davenport had mentioned that, financially we were in a situation where you had to maybe hold off on some of these maintenance items, and now you're, in a better position. So that's why we obviously are making decisions to get those long awaited maintenance issues taken care of.
Okay, so I just want to understand. So the contractor, what account number does the contractor go in?
So you're referring
To Imboden, yeah.
to in Bowden. I believe we've been paying that out of 3160. We haven't included anything in, for the budget next year, because right now it's uncertain as to where we're going to go with that. As Mr. Miller mentioned, that we've got the RFQ out, and until we know some more definitive numbers, we didn't want to put anything in here.
So it's probably true that we would need a contractor, though, because regardless what way we went, we would have to have a water,
Wastewater, I mean.
yeah, the water
Class one.
testing, yeah.
So the only thing that we're out right now on a request for qualifications is on the wastewater operations. The water side, we don't necessarily need to do that. You have a manager, and I think he just left, Jerry. He handles the water side, and the water side is a much less labor intensive operation. But the management and the operation of the wastewater, that's what's out for, to request qualifications. And what we're saying is we won't know until we bring it back to you and let you as a board make a decision which way to go. Do you want to have a contracted out wastewater service that is completely handled by a contractor and we don't have the employees anymore? Or do we do something different? So that's where we are at right now. And that's why I think what Ms. Hahn's saying, we didn't include anything about them in there.
But we don't have a class 1 right now, right?
Right.
So
there's also the possibility we have interviews, I believe, set for next Wednesday, to interview a person that has a class 1 level of certification. And if that works out, then that's a person that you could have. It's not saying that you wouldn't still want to consider going to an operator system, but you would have at least that class 1, because we do require that. And Imboden is serving in that status right now. Their class 1 status is what is allowing us to comply with the DEQ regulations. That was all that goes back to August when Mr. Weekly left, and the plan was to get them in here to do the class 1 responsibilities.
okay. And then the other question I have is the extra hauling, like for example, from that happened, and also some of the issues that happened at Dahlgren. What line does that go in, the account?
Contracted services.
33.
If it involved using somebody outside the employment of us, it would have been a contracted service. However, we do have an employee that's his job. I mean, he regularly hauls out the sludge from the plants. His name is Latif, and he's in and out of all the plants all week. And so on a normal week, he's going to be maybe possibly, the example would be Perkins 1 to 2 times a week, just because that you have to get rid of the sludge. And what they do is I think I explained this, they take it to Dahlgren, and Dahlgren has what's known as a belt press. And it's a process that then dewaters that sludge. And then that sludge is picked up by local contractors, which is a private hauling, and they send that out. And that's going to be built up in the contract services. Is that correct?
Actually, it's waste management.
Waste management.
For landfill costs
Right. Okay.
at no charge.
But when you have those emergencies, those are things that are going to come under a contracted service.
Ms. Hahn? On the living wage
That
spread,
is,
What that is that you have in front of you are the suggested possible new positions. And if they were hired, like for the maintenance, the top line, I think, is hired in as an experienced maintenance person. The next line is someone who might have some experience. And then the water operator and at a certification of 3 and 4.
what's causing the discrepancy in the benefits for each one of these different?
Because your VRS is based on your, it's a percentage of your salary for
Okay.
VRS, as well as FICA is a percentage of your
Okay.
salary. So if your salaries aren't the same, the benefits are going to be different. And
Okay.
also what we have to pay for disability insurance, then we also pay life insurance through VRS, and we pay workers' comp.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else? Going once, going twice. Do we need a motion?
Do you have any questions? Our citizen advisory?
I do. The maintenance, I'm a little confused about. Is there a maintenance schedule that you're following? Or are you behind on the maintenance?
Hey, you got to speak into the mic.
So,
I mean, we have regular maintenance that we do, but it's whatever comes up through the day, whatever breaks. We don't even have time to do preventative maintenance right now. We're just trying to keep everything running.
and is that due to staffing or? is
It has
just-
been due to staffing before. We're getting staffed up now, but there's so much backlog to catch up to a point where we can be proactive. It's gonna be a while.
Okay.
I think another thing that
But
like I mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was referring to it as how it's built into the budget. Because you talk about it in the budget,
So I think that,
because the preventive maintenance versus regular maintenance.
right, and so there would be 2 ways that I can explain that. One is that you would have, from a personnel standpoint, and we will incorporate these if the board so desires for us to incorporate them. They will be incorporated in the 2 budgets. They'd be split 50-50. So that would add some personnel, which gives him more people to perform preventative maintenance, perform the routine maintenance, the issues that happen throughout the day that they have to respond to, the reactive maintenance, if you will. And I think the other thing that I would say is that we have gone through and looked at everything, and there are going to be some things that like we said, there's going to be some maintenance that's been probably put off. The example was the valves. You have I guess you'd say it's a newer plant in the hop yard system. It's 18 years old though. And the water, those valves that are within that water plant, they haven't been replaced. I don't believe any of them have been replaced. And again, as I said, the board had to make decisions several years ago with, and they did a very good job of getting on a track to deal with some of the financial concerns. And they have a financial plan, and we can certainly provide you with that, that shows, various rate increases that will have to occur to keep everything up to speed. But, they had to put some things on hold. And now we're in a position to deal with those things operationally through this budget, but also through the larger capital projects. And we have a number of those that will address some of the things that we have needs at as well.
Yeah, I understand, but I was asking because, hiring decisions and, payroll decisions need to be made in reference to getting the maintenance up to snuff, because if you don't do that, we're just gonna be back to that over and over again.
I would completely agree with you, and that's why we're trying to,
So if we don't get them the help we need.
right. And that's why we're trying to, more aggressively address that. And during this year, we've added, how many did you add? We replaced, okay.
So I think what she's asking, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, the way the maintenance is budgeted, there's the salaries of the maintenance people, and they've already added a couple addition into here. But the maintenance and repair stuff is a combination of a couple things. One, it's the historical, how much it's cost to repair stuff. That is like if the fire that pops up every now and again, or a lot, where things break. Like when all the valves go. Now we're planning to replace all the valves now because we know they're broken, and so that's in the maintenance budget now. So there are some things in the maintenance budget we know it needs to repair. Yeah, so that's maintenance. Yeah, so there's both preventative maintenance in that, and then the emergency maintenance. So part of the budget is the preventative maintenance, where we know these things have to be done this year, and then the other parts, historically, how many valves or pieces of equipment that we've had to replace. So it's a hedge on what's happened historically. So that's where, if I'm correct, that's where the total number for maintenance comes.
Yeah, so we met with staff, and it is based on historical kind of repairs that we've done, but also needs that we know that need to be done, proactive to get it done beforehand. So they come up with a total that they feel that they know what's out there that we do need to replace, and give us those numbers to plug in here for the budget. And so I'm thinking either a better word is operations or maintenance and repair, not just plain maintenance, because they do a lot of repair work as well. And they try to do preventative, but there, like Mr. Parker stated, there are fires that have to be put out, and those are repairs. So he's more maintenance and repair.
But the other thing that is to keep in mind too, as I said, that we have a capital improvement process. And a capital item is one item that goes in excess of 50,000. That's usually the way you kind of make the break. And so there are a number of those things that will be presented in a different budget. The way the county does this budgeting is they deal with their operating budget, which we're doing tonight and a couple other meetings. And then a couple months later, we'll deal with the capital side of it. And so so you'll be allowed to come back and obviously talk about or get an overview of our capital plan, which is the bigger $250 or $1 million of major improvements. So there are things that aren't reflected in here that are going to be reflected in the capital side.
So like the water meters. The water meters are a replacement that needs to be done, but that's the capital.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
can I ask two things of staff? The first is we have citizen appointees who aren't here this evening. Can we make sure to email these out to all of them so that they have them, so that in their leisure, if they want to read through them while they watch the recording of tonight's meeting, I think that would be very helpful for them.
I'll get them to Ms. Smith, and she'll get them to those citizens who are not here
Thank you.
tonight.
And then with regard to our citizens question, really good question, ma'am. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. You're Ms. Bender's appointee, right? Ms. Molnar. Is there any reason can you find out, are we able to provide the citizens with the utility master plan?
I believe it's a public
Is it on the
information, yeah.
website? It is? So if it's not on the website, can we also make sure that our citizens are privy to, because this might answer some of the question that you just asked, as far as maintenance goes and what we've acknowledged in here needs to be happening. It might be helpful for you to have this to take a look at too. Thank you.
Can you hold that up again?
Yeah, it's the Utility Master Plan, Phase 1, Water and Wastewater Action Plan by Wiley Wilson and Draper Aiden. I have a draft copy that was from November of 2018.
Because there's something on their website, but I'm not sure it looks exactly the same.
did a phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it was prior to most of us being on this board. I know Ms. Bender was on the board at the time, but the rest of us weren't. But yeah, if we could make sure, and if there are directors who don't have it as well, if we can make sure everybody has this, because this informs a lot of the discussion about the capital improvements that we've acknowledged that we need to make to meet DEQ standards and the maintenance like you asked, ma'am. Thank you.
Part of that was driven from our first consent order from DEQ when I first came on the board. Well, that is true.
Anybody else have anything, other questions? Okay, yeah, I think we can adjourn, right?
Yeah, well, let's just go over again what we'll do next time. So like we said, we were hoping to dedicate the next meeting to revenue side. And so we'll have, obviously, like Ms. Cleveland had asked that we do a year-to-date, so we'll have a year-to-date on the revenue side as well as
Yeah, what we gave out tonight was the expenditure.
expenditure side, yes.
That will run today.
And then we will provide you with a copy of the financial plan if you don't have it, but the board adopted back in 2019, this, I don't know, you want to use the word bailout, but it was the 5-year plan and you're in the middle of that. If you'd like us to have, we can ask Mr. Louch to come if you would like, with Davenport. I'm not saying he can, but we can certainly reach out and ask him. Okay. And he can, kind of give you another overview of things. I know a lot of the presentation that he did was kind of sucked up into that discussion about the merger and, when you might level off, when you might go do a refinancing or, to keep from the major hit that's supposed to happen in like 26, 27. So I think that it might be useful to have him here and we can get an idea of what we think you ought to be, with the rates. I believe that the 5-year plan has an automatic assumption built in of a certain percentage this next year. And so, we need to just present that to you and then we can clean up anything that if you have any questions about anything other than some of the things we have, please let us know. Yeah. Yeah. So that's on the website. So that's on the website, but we'll have it printed out and we can have Kyle here and hopefully get a little bit more intensive discussion about it. Does that
sound like a plan?
And is that are you good on the Thursday, the 21st? Because I think everybody said that
I am
Thursday.
not.
Okay.
But
I guess make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, April 19th, 2022 in the boardroom.
okay, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned.